Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel where we talk about luxury, living our best life, learning to love ourselves, and then learning to share that love with others. Tonight is all about travel. Let's get the video started. All right, let's get started. I have my cheat sheet already. I do want to let you know that in June of 2019, we went to Europe, finally. I've been waiting for it since I was, I'm sure, 2 years old. We went to England, to Scotland, and also to France. So here's the thing that I wanted to really share with you. You know, when I was preparing, I realized that there were a ton of gurus out there, and I learned a lot of information from them, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for the niche that they have and the great wealth of knowledge that they're willing to share with us. I also found that there were a lot of flight attendants out there who can give you the skinny on what's going on in the airplane or how to pack or do those things. There are specialists that know the right restaurant. They know like the tastiest of pubs, and those things are wonderful. But the one thing that I found lacking was what happens if you are absolutely brand new to travel outside of your country. What happens? And I think that sometimes when we're very knowledgeable within a subject, we forget the simplest of things, and that's where I found myself getting tripped up just a little bit. And it's those things that I want to talk to you. So I would love to talk to you about travel from a newbie's perspective. The first thing really is if you don't already know where to go, you're going to have to find ideas, right? Some of us already know exactly where we want to find ourselves. We imagine ourselves standing at the Louvre. We imagine ourselves what it must be like to stand outside Buckingham Palace when the changing of the guards take place. Others just know, hey, it might be nice to head over to Germany, and other than the Autobahn, I'm not really sure what I want to do over there. And that's okay. If you know, that's great. If you don't know, I do recommend just take some time. There are some wonderful individuals out there. I know I've already mentioned Rick Steves. I did find him to be a wonderful wealth of knowledge. I have watched him from the time I was much younger. I have always loved his videos. I have read his books. So I felt like that was the first place for me to go. He has a wonderful website where he has things that you can buy. There are forums there so you can talk to other individuals while you're getting things planned. I do recommend that. I recommend that you go to his website, and I will link it below. Go ahead and set up an account, start your reviews, chat with the people there, watch the videos. He does actual talks on YouTube about so many things. Narrow it down to where you think you want to go, and then you can begin all the fun, right? There are also other travel channels out there. I recommend that you do that. Take a look for things like packing for 2 weeks, or there's like the TSA rules. Just kind of look up those kind of things and watch the videos, have a lot of fun with it, and then kind of get a general idea of what you want to do. That's the very first place that I would recommend that you start. The next thing that really was helpful for me, so I really did kind of know exactly where I wanted to go, but interestingly enough, it did kind of morph into being something that, yes, I wanted to do, but it ended up changing a little bit too, so we'll talk about that as well. So once you kind of have a general idea, I'm going to recommend that you focus on the kind of travel that you really want to do. Whether, like if you're across the sea like me, I'm in America and I wanted to go to see some places in Europe. So I knew that I was going to have to fly. Of course, that's a given. But then beyond that, I had to make some decisions. Am I going to be a train girl? Am I going to rely on public transportation? Do I want to rent a car? I don't know, like bus, train, whatever it is, planes, trains, automobiles. You have to kind of make those decisions and think those things through. Now, you don't have to be committed to any of those things, but just think, I would love to see the countryside via train. I think that'd be fantastic. Or I really am a driver, and that just happens to be my husband and I, by the way. We both love to drive because you can see the scenery at your own timeline. So you can stop when you want to stop. You can go when you want to go, although the public transit system over there is really phenomenal and very different from what you see over here. I wouldn't mind recommending that to you either. We did a little bit of that as well. So take a look for that. So I do want to give you this warning before we move on. Don't book, just look. Don't make any bookings just yet. Sketch out what you think your itinerary might be, how you want to travel. You want to fly into London? Great, fly into London. You want to go see the Ring of Kerry? Guess what? You might not want to fly into London. You might be flying into Dublin. So that's going to kind of help you kind of focus where you want to be. But please don't book anything just yet. The reason why I say that is because when I planned to go, in my head, I've wanted to go so long, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to fly into London. I wanted to drive up the East Coast. I wanted to get into Edinburgh. I wanted to see a castle. I wanted to do some loops in Scotland. I wanted to get on a ferry. I wanted to get into Ireland. I wanted to kiss the Blarney Stone. I wanted to see the Ring of Kerry. I wanted to go in through a ferry. I wanted to hit Bristol. I wanted to see Bath. I wanted to touch the stones on my way to London again and then fly back out. Whew. That was an awful lot to prepare for. And by the way, near impossible for 2 weeks. I learned that. When we really started getting down into planning the itinerary, we found out that it wasn't possible to do that kind of thing. I had way overplanned what we needed to do. And by the way, realized that we wanted to do a little piece over in Paris, which really knocked all of Ireland out. So here I am. I've already purchased plane tickets, by the way, because I was pretty sure I knew exactly how life was going to go. So I made the very first rookie mistake of doing that. Now, it worked out just fine, by the way, and that's the next thing that I do want to tell you before we move on any further. Please do not let this planning stuff ruffle you at all. If you make some rookie mistakes, guess what? It's going to be an adventure, and it's going to be wonderful. A roughly planned vacation over in Europe truly is better than the best planned thing on your way to work. I got to tell you, it was great. Any mistake that we made turned out to be wonderful blunders. So do not sweat anything, but please wait. Just wait on booking anything. And so let's talk about that just for just a minute. So when you're completing your itinerary, you need to ask yourself some questions. For instance, what would you like to see? We knew that we wanted to see the National Gallery in London, and we did that, and we marked that down, and we planned a day. We thought, okay, it might take this much time in that gallery, and near it is something else, so let's do that. Let's plan to have lunch or dinner. So we kind of tried to plan the day around the thing that we wanted to see. Another example would be we went to Scotland and wanted to visit one of the distilleries in Aberlour. Aberlour, I am most likely pronouncing that incorrectly. Please forgive me. So while we were preparing for that, I did a look-see in that general area to see what was available. And I ended up finding the Walker shortbread factory. Super exciting, right? And then there was a little place there called 3 Bags Wool. It was a lovely little wool store. And I thought, well, gosh, that seems like fun too. So we just kind of planned a day around that distillery, just off the wall, kind of fun stuff, nothing too big. We did a lot of things that weren't on a normal person's itinerary, and I don't think I would do it any different. It ended up being so much fun, and it was a really great first time out. So do that kind of thing. Figure out what you want to see, and then see if you can identify things in that general area to kind of, so you're not kind of traipsing all over the place. Try to kind of, connect your dots a little bit. I did find that helpful for me. And then you need to have a conversation and talk about how long you've really got to stay. So if you've got 2 weeks, honest and truly, you're going to see a lot less than you would see in 3 weeks or a month. And that's what we did. We did a 2-week jaunt, and we did a very focused trip it took a lot of planning. I'm very glad that we were able to do as much as we did. However, there were still things that we didn't get to that we had planned to do. So prepare yourself for that. Know how much you're going to, how long you're going to stay. Note where you're going to go, and then we'll start the actual planning part. So here's a couple of options of things that you can do. So I'm just going to keep talking about a 2-week stay. I think that's the average amount of time that people go over there. If you have a month, yay, that's so exciting, and you can expand yours. But for right now, I'm going to talk about like a 2-week stay. So if you're just planning for that, there's a couple ways that you can go. If you're someone who just wants to flitter all over the place and you're like, oh, I want to go to Scotland to see this one thing, and then I want to go to England to see this one thing, and then I want to go over to Paris to see this one thing, you might be the type of individual that's going to travel, like pack lightly, and you're just going to go from hotel to hotel to hotel, keeping in mind one of the things that we learned over there is it takes a lot longer to travel than you think that it would. There are winding roads, there are very tiny roads, there are country roads, there are some rough roads where we were traveling, and it wasn't just like driving 80, getting to your destination, hopping out, getting in the hotel and going to eat at Red Robin for dinner. It was very different, right? It was seeing the beauty along the way. It was driving 40 at times because the road was so narrow and so crazy, and then there was no asphalt. It was just dirt road. And but then there would be this wonderful farm, and you would get out and there would be Highland cows and birds and wonderful people to chat with. So the trade-off, I think, is absolutely phenomenal. But just kind of prepare yourself for that. Know where you're going to go, because you're either going to hop. The one thing that the Hubs and I did was we decided, for instance, in Scotland, we stayed in Inverness. We made that our home base, and every day we would get up and we would go to a different place in Scotland, and then we would come back in the evening and we'd have a lovely, we may have had a lovely dinner, or we would have a lovely dinner and just be able to enjoy ourselves, and we didn't have to pack and unpack every day. It turned out to be phenomenal for us, but that's how we wanted to do it, was to venture out, and Inverness was the perfect middle place for us. We did most of our stuff in Scotland, in the Highlands. So there you have that. I hope that's helpful to you to kind of do that. Just know how you're going to go. I want to talk to you now about the time of year that you're going to go. Now, I know that most people will talk to you about, make sure it's the right time of year. Do it before peak season, but do it also after, like the non-peak season, when things are not open as much. So I'm going to tell you, they're probably right, because again, they are travel gurus. Please, I want you to follow that advice. But here's the next piece that I would add to you. Once you know where you're going to go and you know when you would like to go, I want you to find all of those little cities that you want to travel to. Might be 3, might be 12. I don't know. I don't know how aggressive you're going to make your timelines, but please find everywhere you're going to be throughout the day. And I would like for you to kind of sketch out, I've got these 2 weeks, and I want to know that for these 2 weeks, is there a festival going on in that area? This is so important. A festival is going to bring so many people, and it's going to change traffic patterns. It's going to change how you get into a restaurant. It's going to change what a museum feels like when you walk through it, right? If it's really packed, you're not going to have the wonderful experience of leisurely going through something when there's not a lot of people. So just keep that in mind. Just the festival thing is very important. Or if there's a sporting event going on, make sure that you know if there's something happening in that place before you go. And I will tell you that when we went to Paris, there was a sporting event going on. We ended up with 2 kind of crazy, can you hear my hubs in the back? We ended up with 2 interesting things that went on. We had a sporting event, And then we also had that really hot time of year when they broke the records over there. So it was miserable in the streets because it was so hot. There were so many people from the sporting events just like milling around in the streets. It was hard to get a taxi. The buses were all full. It was just drenching hot. I remember looking at the Louis Vuitton store and the hub said, "Do you want to go in?" And I just went, I don't, not at all. Like I want to find a someplace kind of cool. I did not enjoy so much walking through the streets with that many people, and it could have been avoided if I had. And I looked everywhere else, but because Paris was a last minute thing, I did not do that, and I really should have, because I would have flipped it to earlier in our visit rather than the later part of our visit. So please keep that in mind. That's going to be extremely important, not just the time of year that you go, but definitely what is being impacted in the area that you're going to be in. The next thing I want to talk to you about is a lovely website called Inspiron. I hope that I'm pronouncing it correctly. Again, I'm going to link it below so you can take a look at it. I'm going to recommend it because that's how I learned, like that's how I ended up mapping my entire trip. It took me from a starting place, so let's use Inverness again. I could say I'm starting at this location, and I want to go to that location. And it would tell me how long it took, and I could plan, okay, that opens at that time. It's going to take me this amount of time to get there. Great. Now I know when I need to leave so I can be there when that opens. And then from that point on, I would just keep adding my destination, my next destination, my next destination. And it would tell me it's going to take you this long to get there. So I could go, well, I think that when we go do the distillery, we're probably going to be there a couple of hours, and then we can move on to the next thing. So it allowed me to set the pace for the entire day and know exactly where I was going, exactly how long it would take, and what time I could expect to return back to our home base. So I recommend it. Go to the link that's below. Go ahead and set your account up. The great thing about it is once you do all of those things, it also has a notes section, so you can put the address there and then also a phone number. And that's helpful because I recommend that you print it before you leave. There were times when I needed to hand paper things over, so it's a very important thing if you want to do that. So recommend it. Let's see. So the next thing would be, do you belong to any Facebook groups for the places that you're going? Now, probably this is probably for those of you who already really know, like, oh gosh, I want to go see Paris, or I want to go to Frankfurt, Germany and do X, So you might already belong to some groups. And if you don't, what are you waiting for? Go get on some of these Facebook groups. Type in the place that you're interested in going to. There's going to be a group out there. Connect with them, please, right now, tonight. Go do it. Please connect. I had the wonderful opportunity of connecting to some great groups. My focus really ended up being Scotland because of some ancestry information I was given, and I'll do a video to kind of chat about that. But truly, met some wonderful people on Facebook, had some great experiences. They gave me some great information about local places that even the best of the gurus who just travel may not have known. This was true local stuff. I got an invite to see like a museum, like behind the scenes at a place that I was heading to. We ended up running out of time and I didn't get to meet up with her, but I definitely want to go back and do that. But it was, we've made a connection and we stay in touch. Such a wonderful thing. Don't count that out. Don't count that experience out. How wonderful would it be to make a connection and then have the opportunity to meet that person over there and experience something truly local? Safely though, mind you, safely. Please be careful. But I did do that though. I did meet up with someone who is actually a subscriber on this channel. So doing a real quick shout out. Hey Ange, hey gals, I love you very much. So that I actually met them. They came over here and let me know that they were coming to the US, and I drove to meet them. And then when I was over there, they were just so kind to come all the way from where they lived into London and to spend some time and go to tea with me. And that was such a special day for me. So really, make some contacts, get to know people. Let's talk about where you're going to sleep. So you have hotels, you have bed and breakfast, you have Airbnbs, and they can be wonderful or they can be a very scary thing. We did have 2 wonderful experiences with Airbnb. We had one really bad experience with Airbnb when we got over there. So the 2 that we had great experiences were both in Scotland. Just one we kind of stayed somewhere going in between London and then Inverness. Because we were taking our time and seeing things, we stayed there going and then coming back. Wonderful experience. And the place that we stayed in Inverness, wonderful experience. In both of those instances, we chatted all the time. We stayed in contact, joking back and forth. We really developed a little bit of a rapport before we even got there. The one in London, I picked it out and I would ask questions. There would be a little bit of a delay and the answer would just be very... not quite like my personality, and I try to be very understanding, like, oh, they're not that personable. They're more about the business, and that's okay. Honest and truly, if you get an individual like that, I'm going to recommend that you delve, ask more questions, ask for more pictures. If you feel uncomfortable about where you are thinking about booking, do not even hesitate to ask that individual to write your name on a card and go take a picture with the place with your card so you can make sure. That's really what ended up happening was we saw these wonderful pictures and then we got there, it wasn't even the same place. And if it was the same place, we're talking many years difference between the 2. Nothing matched at all. The furniture, the window, like none of it really matched. And it was a basement-y area. It was very dank. It was there was a heavy mold and mildew smell to it, and we ended up having to very quickly dial and find a hotel, and we were very grateful to be able to find one, but we ended up having to go way back out near the Gatwick airport in order to do that. So just some advice there. Make sure that you ask questions, keep communicating with them. And then once you've made those reservations, and this stands for any place that you're staying, it stands for the place you're flying, the place the train you're getting on, please continue to go back regularly and check on the airline, check on the train station, make contact with the Airbnb person, call the hotel if you need to, look online for your reservation, make sure that things aren't changing because everything is subject to change. And the one place that we ended up not staying at, some of the reviews that were negative were that they would cancel at the last minute on them and kind of leave them high and dry. So you don't want that happening. You want to really stay on top of it to make sure that you've got a place to stay, a seat on the airplane, all of those things that will make your trip a whole lot easier. So I also want to say that when I was making my reservations online, I would save them and I created a folder called, believe it or not, travel. I would put them in there. And then just before we left, I went back through and I verified, of course I had been verifying all along, but I went through and I printed them. And normally I'm not a printer. I love to do everything via my phone, but I had also read or watched videos where they said sometimes the internet can be kind of, the Wi-Fi can be kind of sketchy. And I did find that to be true. There were 2 instances where I was very, very grateful that we had items printed out. It was actually quite good. I think it may have been actually more than twice. It was necessary. So there you have it. Just do some research. Don't let these things stress you out. Keep a happy heart when you take a look at it, and then just realize that if you make any mistakes along the way, they really are going to be wonderful experiences. So don't sweat it too much. And I'm sorry that this video went so long, but I had so much that I wanted to get out and share with you. Now this is just the planning portion of it. And I would love to chat with you another time about maybe just some funny stories of contact that I had with individuals. And I do want to talk to you about things like security and what it is to fly, and all of those things I'll do in some upcoming videos. And if you don't want to see them, that's okay. If you're interested, please by all means let me know down in the comments below, so I'll know that would be a good thing to share with you guys. Anyway, that's really it for this evening. I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, morning, wherever you happen to be, and I will talk to you again very soon. Bye.